let's do another video today. And this video is going to be on kind of a mix of the whole horse and Wamu video. And that's what would happen if Nodal didn't die and joined the Crusaders. Which is a very unique idea, and I actually do like the idea. So, yeah. Uh, Instead of wasting time, I'm just going to go and just start the video. But before we start the video, I gotta thank someone. Today I'm thanking Lackey Toot, who actually requested last week's video, for suggesting this one. So yeah, I just decided to do this one the next week, so yeah. With that all being said, let's go to the actual story and see what changes. So let's start off with part 3, where Nodal does not die. As for how he doesn't die, we'll say for the sake of the story that maybe Nodal, when he does go to stab himself in the head, maybe the team just instead is able to save him at the last second, like maybe Jotaro uses Star Platinum to do something to take the attack, and I'm not saying Jotaro dies, but Jotaro just gets hurt. Or Nodal just instead he goes to hit it, but Jotaro just pushes him out of the way to save him, and Nodal's just skinned through the forehead or something. With that, they go and talk, and then Jotaro just talk no jitsus him, and he's on the good guys team. Hooray for Nodal. As for other changes, like what would Nodal do? In my opinion, I think he would probably just go to the hospital after the Jotaro fight, kind of where Abdul and Kakyoin went after that fight was over, so they just go to the hospital and rest up, because if you remember, Nodal get punched in the chest by Jotaro. Didn't get punched through, but you got punched really hard in the chest, so I would assume he may have to stay in the hospital for a day or two. Probably the same amount of time Abdul did. Uh, we still get the Oingo Boingo Brothers Bizarre Adventure, and they just do the same thing. And if Nodal does come out and he's finally gonna fight again, nothing else would change. Maybe he'll be in like one or two of the fights, but I don't see what he would change in those fights. Maybe, I don't know, older Darby, he does some kind of gambling match. I doubt it. But the thing with older Darby, not older Darby, but Nodal is he's kind of a glass cannon. He's very useful when it comes to long range, but if you're fighting him in a short range battle, he's basically screwed. But for the most part, most of the arcs would either change with a few nitpicks or would go the same, depending on what fights you'd put him in during that point. Me personally, I'd have him fight against probably either Alessi or Mariah in probably another battle. Maybe him and the Nubis fight as well. But minus from that, minus from like a quick little appearance in fights, what else does he change? Uh, let's go to the other fights, like in particular when we get to the mansion. So around that time, Nodal would not be taken in, and it'd still be Jotaro, Joseph, and Kakyoin. Now, also another little thing I need to point out, Nodal might actually know the world's ability. It's hinted that he might have known it, but it's never 100% confirmed. So I'm going to say for the sake of this, he doesn't, but I'll also kind of go down a scenario where he does. Because either way, I think it will affect the story a lot. Whether he does or doesn't know, it would have some small changes. Now, when it goes to the fact if he doesn't know, or if he does know, either way, he is going to probably stay outside of the mansion while Abdul, Iggy, and Polnareff fight Ice, while the others go and fight younger Darby. Maybe they tell him in advance that for when Abdul, Iggy, and Polnareff go in the mansion, have Nodal stay, because if he does get attacked by an enemy, he'll probably get killed. So Abdul and Iggy are still going to have to die, and Nodal would probably just stay over at just... He'd basically just stay outside, waiting for someone to get him, which probably would have Joseph, Kakyoin, and Jotaro find where he is, and the group would go and pick him up. Now, as for changes when it comes to Dio, I'm going to talk about two scenarios. Scenario 1, Nodal does not know the ability of the world. Scenario 2, which is the most likely, I think he would know the abilities. And if he knows the abilities, this could change the outcome of the fight. Nodal would probably go with Joseph and Kakyoin, I would assume. And this would probably mean that Kakyoin would either not do the 20-meter Emerald Splash because Nodal decides to do it as a way to repay Kakyoin. No, I mean not repay, but more of an apology for almost causing him to go blind. So Nodal just takes the attack so Kakyoin would live. Either that, or you can just have Nodal probably just, I don't know, maybe when Kakyoin gets blasted into the water tower, Nodal uses Geb and patches up the wound. Then that means Kakyoin does not bleed out, and Kakyoin can survive. But if he does know the world's ability, then chances are Kakyoin would not pick a fight with Dio. So either way, there's a more unlikely chance Kakyoin does live, but it is possible for him to still die. I would assume he would survive at the end, though. As for if it goes to Nodal, I would assume he dies. If he doesn't die, and I'll probably go to what I could see him playing a part in, the thing with Know-It-All is, like with Kakyoin surviving, I've technically talked about what I could see him doing already in some of my previous videos, so if you want to go into them, there are plenty of videos where I've said Kakyoin surviving in, so you can just look those up and watch them. But when it goes to Know-It-All surviving, this one is very hard, because I think there's a more unlikely chance he does die to Dio, because at that point, Dio would probably want to kill him, but if not the case, then he might just be like another Polnareff thing where Dio gives him a chance to turn good, like 1,000 chances to be exact. So, yeah, chances of Know-It-All surviving is very slim, but let's say he does survive. Let's say either, I don't know, Know-It-All survives in Kakyoin's place, or Kakyoin and Know-It-All both live or something. How does it change the story? I'll tell you how it changes. So, after thinking a while, I'm just going to mix 3, 4, 5, and 6 into one big part. If Know-It-All was alive, I'm just going to talk about briefly how he would do in those parts. Because I feel like if Know-It-All did survive, he probably would never come back. But let's say if he does survive and appears in other parts. Part 4. With that Know-It-All being in 4, let's say, for the sake of the story he goes in, he's not, I wouldn't say he does awful for the sake of the story, but he probably does do good. Because of Aqua Necklace and Angelo, maybe Jotaro takes Know-It-All as a way to try to sense him out and get with Geb. Jotaro versus Know-It-All, Know-It-All versus Angelo, sorry. I think Know-It-All would win personally. He was a smarter stand user. So yeah, I think Know-It-All would beat Angelo, but all the other fights, hard to say what Know-It-All can do. Maybe he can beat another fight, but most of the Part 4 stand users, I don't really see how Know-It-All would do good. Like, Geb, I feel like unless he's going into a long-range fight, Know-It-All's losing the fight and would probably die against Kira. But let's say he's in Part 5, how would he go to 5? Or Italy, to be exact. Well, there are 2 reasons. We'll say scenario 1, Know-It-All goes to Italy because Jotaro sends him, because maybe for the sake of the story, kind of like how I did with the Whole Horse one, where everyone survives and all that, Abdul went to Italy, so maybe Know-It-All goes because of that, because I don't think Kakyoin would go to Italy. So maybe Know-It-All can go and meet Jarno. He probably would not bring backup, but then again, he could probably bring someone like Josuke, but that's debatable. Know-It-All versus Giorno would probably end with Giorno winning, and maybe Giorno can heal Know-It-All's sight with gold experience, and we basically just get Know-It-All who knows how to see, which is pretty good. How would he change Part 5, though? This is the scenario where Know-It-All is basically involved with all the story. So, in the fights we had in 5, I don't really know what fights Know-It-All could have appeared in. Maybe Man in the Mirrors, probably taking Abaki or Fugo's place, or maybe even Giorno's place. Hard to say how Know-It-All would do in that arc. I think he could do decent enough. Hard to say if Geb could actually create a mirror world with water and reflection. That would be a very unique case scenario, but I doubt it. So answer that in the comments, just a little fun debate on what you think would happen. if like Geb's reflection would pull Nodal into the mirror world or something, or the group in there. But yeah, other fights I don't really see changing much. And yeah, that's basically a scenario where Nodal's basically sent to Italy. He'd probably just die against Diavolo ultimately. But a scenario where Nodal goes to Italy with Polnareff, there's two case scenarios here. Scenario one is that Nodal dies to Diavolo off camera, like when Polnareff got like decapitated. Nodal actually gets murdered. Another case scenario is Nodal is actually there with Polnareff and they're like cyborgs and all that. With that, I don't really know what would change. He might actually die or become a turtle instead. I don't really know. I think Nodal, he would probably die in part 5. Hate to say it, but most of these parts, Nodal would probably die in. Next is part 6, and like the last two parts and other part, I don't see Nodal surviving. Honestly, I have no hatred toward Nodal. It's just his stand, like it's good and all, but overall in big battles, it's pretty useless. Like, he could be a good fighter, maybe if he evolves Geb into a humanoid form. Like, if he develops it to a point where it can go humanoid and throw barrages and punches, and maybe if he can walk and he's not that slow, and maybe he's not blind, maybe like after part 5, Nodal gets to a ultimate peak and he's just in part 6 and he's basically this powerhouse. Uh, Against Made in Heaven, this is odd, but I think they stand a chance if they get knocked in the water. I mean, think about it. Geb is mostly water control. They were knocked into water and fighting on water. Have them strike out a perfect plan for Poochie. Maybe do the Anasui plan, like how he was doing it. Once he gets stabbed, try to lure him out so Geb can get into Poochie and kill him. Which could work, realistically, but I'd say Made in Heaven's too fast and Nodal would probably die. So either way, Nodal's gonna die. Whether he's dying against Dio in part 3, whether he's dying against Kira or another villain in part 4, whether he's dying against Diavolo in part 5, whether he's dying against Pucci in part 6 or maybe another villain, or just depending on when he goes into the story of 6, I don't see Nodal getting out of the story alive, and would more than likely die in either 3 or any future parts. So, yeah, that's it for the video. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope I did both of your videos justice, Lucky Toot. And, yeah, that's all I gotta say. Next time I'll do 2 other requests, which will be Danganronpa related. And then after those 2 videos, I'll do another request, which is, again, a JoJo related video. So, thanks for watching, and I see you all next time. Goodbye.